Hey guys, it's Al again, and I'm here to talk about Take Over Toronto. It's been a little while since I've done one of these wrestling reviews. So, today, I wanted to do one, and I might do one for SummerSlam tomorrow. We'll see. But, we're just going to go match by match. We're going to talk about my thoughts of it. I'm not going to give a blow-by-blow. This isn't going to be that kind of channel. But what did I think of the matches? I've been a wrestling fan for a good chunk of my life. I've seen a ton of matches. I've never worked in wrestling, so this is just the opinion of a fan. That's all I am. So let's start. We're going to talk about the first match on the card, which was the Street Profits against the Undisputed Era. And I got to say, everything in this match, or just about everything I should say, looked clean, looked crisp, it looked good. But there was a problem. There was no match psychology to this. I'm sorry. It was a spot fest, largely. And it didn't help that I think it was Beth Phoenix on commentary misnamed a few moves, which bugged me, calling a wheelbarrow suplex a German suplex. Sorry. Can't talk today for some reason. But little to no match psychology. There was one point when I believe it was Kyle O'Reilly had Montez Ford in a type of ankle or knee bar, and he just, after being in it for several minutes and selling it to high heaven like it was just killing him, there was no selling of the leg after that. If something hurts you that much, I'm sorry, it's gonna hurt you. You're gonna be hurting. You should be selling for the rest of the match. They didn't do that. There were way too many false finishes. There was one spot in the match where Montez Ford tries to play up The Rock. He mocks like he's going to do a people's elbow, which gets stopped, and then he runs back in the ring and he does a rock bottom, which Mauro Ranallo called a Uranagi. Rock bottom is a type of a Uranagi. It's a modified one, but it was clearly a rock bottom. The fans started chanting Rocky. I'm sorry, you don't want to do that. You don't want to remind people of somebody else who's more popular, who frankly did the stuff better. Again, too many false finishes. When they did get to the finish, I thought it was well done. Angelo Dawkins comes in. He spears both members of the Undisputed. Montez Ford lands a frog splash on, I forget if it was Fisher O'Reilly. And they get the 3 count off of that. Street Profits win. Next we had Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae. This match started with a hot start. Candice LeRae hit the ring, took Io Shirai down in a really bad looking double leg takedown. Being a former wrestling coach, that kind of stuff bugs me. It's just a personal thing, but it looked terrible. And then they did some mounted punches, which looked even worse. Alright. Overall, I didn't think it was a bad match. It told a good story. Candice LeRae was a little sloppy, and most of my issues with the match had to do with her not doing very well. And it was just in spots. She didn't do terribly throughout the whole thing. You know, it was not, Eva Marie versus Carmella back in the day. It wasn't that bad. But there were some spots that just did not look good, and it was pretty obvious it was her. Maybe it was just nerves, because I don't think she's been on a takeover show before. I haven't seen a whole lot of Candice LeRae in the ring, I'll admit that. But I am a big fan of Io Shirai. I'm a big fan of Io Shirai's new gimmick. Not sure how I feel about the new entrance theme yet, but I'm a big fan of her new heel gimmick. I liked her before she turned heel. I think I might like this heel gimmick even better. So yeah, I enjoyed the match overall, minus a couple of spots. And I liked how slowly, as the match went on, Io Shirai just seemed to lose it. Until the end of the match, when she finally snapped and debuted a new finisher, which was a submission that put Candice LeRae to sleep. Io Shirai wins, with this being basically her debut match as this new heel gimmick. That's exactly what should have happened. It's what did happen. So overall, Good match, couple sloppy parts, but the match wasn't bad at all. After that, Matt Riddle actually came out. He came through the crowd. He called out Killian Dane. Killian Dane eventually showed up. Let's be honest, there isn't much to say here. It wasn't a match. It was basically Matt Riddle called out Killian Dane. Killian Dane came out. They has fight. It ended with a big double wipeout. Everything looked pretty good. I will be interested to see how this match goes when it actually becomes a match, which it eventually will. It'll probably be some kind of street fight. But overall, again, I'm not at all disappointed with this segment of the show. We didn't need a match here necessarily. I'm perfectly happy to see them keep building this and see where it goes. So next we had the match for the North American Championship. Velveteen Dream versus Pete Dunne versus Roderick Strong. Personally, I'm not much of a fan of these multi-man matches. I don't like triple threats much. It's really hard to do a good triple threat. This match was a good match as far as triple threats go. I think it's really hard to manage that many people without tag team partners. But the match went fine. Nothing looked bad. I really like all three of these guys. I think I would have preferred to see any combination of them in singles matches versus a triple threat. But we got what we got. And again, fine match as far as triple threats go. I think it would have been a better match if any of them were in singles matches with each other, but that's just my personal opinion. Fine match. Not much of a story to tell outside of the beginning of the match. Roderick Strong kind of poking at about how Pete Dunne doesn't matter. And in the end, he was actually kind of right. As much as I hate to admit it, I love Pete Dunne. I'm a big fan of his. But end of the match, Pete Dunne eats all the finishers and the pinfall. Velveteen Dream ends up retaining. For our next match, we've got the NXT Women's Championship match. Shayna Baszler versus Mia Yim. I always want to say Kia Yim for some reason. Alright, anyway. This was the Street Fighter versus Grappler. Kind of a classic story. You could tell at various points throughout the match, it was very obvious that one or the other was slowing down for the other. I'm pretty sure it was usually Baszler slowing down for Mia Yim. Full disclosure, I am a huge Shayna Baszler fan. She's got the right kind of heel heat for me. I want to see her lose. I want to see her get her comeuppance, but it never happens. And again, I'm not saying that because I dislike Shayna Baszler. I'm saying that because I'm a fan. You should want to see a heel lose. You should want to see a heel get their tail whipped. And I do want to see Shayna Baszler lose. I want to see her get her tail whipped. But she somehow or another just keeps coming out on top. Did she come out tonight? Well, yes, she did. Shayna Baszler ended up winning, making Mia Yim tap. But unlike the opening match where there was some no-selling of a knee that should have been sold, Shayna Baszler did a great job of selling an arm that was worked over throughout the match, and it even came into effect in the finish. So that I thought was a pretty good match. The crowd didn't seem to know how to take it because Mia Yim was acting very heelish in some ways in fighting Shayna Baszler, and the crowd just at one point, it's like, are we supposed to be cheering Mia Yim or Shayna Baszler? At least that's what the crowd response felt like to me. But other than that, it was a good match. Again, nothing looked bad except for some obvious slowdowns, and at the very beginning of the match, there are a couple of interactions that were very, very awkward, I think is the best way to put it. It was just awkward. And I think the awkwardness is in part because they were trying to get across this Street Fighter versus Grappler motif or story throughout the match. and that can make for some awkward interactions because the styles don't really mesh all that well, and that is kind of the point of it. Overall, good match. I enjoyed it. Okay, and lastly we have the 2 out of 3 falls match between Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole. First fall was a straight wrestling match per Adam Cole's request. Second fall was a street fight per Johnny Gargano's request. Third fall was something of William Regal's making. Of course, we all know this match went to the third fall. Johnny Gargano got disqualified in the first fall, won the second fall, and then this cage lowers with a whole bunch of weapons strapped up all around it. It's very interesting. Not sure how I felt about that. The reactions from Gargano and Cole were a little all over the place. Cole's was pretty much legit surprise, trying to figure it out. He couldn't believe it. Gargano seemed to bounce between being shocked and surprised and being happy and being shocked and surprised again. Yeah, Gargano's definitely got something to work on there with his consistency and his reactions sometimes. Excuse me. So, match as a whole was pretty good. It's about what you'd expect from these guys at this point. Nothing really stood out from it. There was one point when they were fighting out in the crowd. Gargano posed for a selfie with a fan. That's an old, is it Ring of Honor where he did that? I forget what the other organization was he did that for. Anyway, sorry, I'm really tired and rambling. But yeah, it was an okay match. I do really like both these guys, although I do think Gargano has some things to work on. The match ended when Gargano had found some clippers, took a little... This cough needs to go away, I'm sorry. And took some barbed wire from the top of the cage. And there was a table in one of the corners up on top of the cage. Couldn't escape the cage to win. And Gargano had taken the barbed wire, chased Cole up onto that table, and they both tumbled off of that table onto some tables they pre-set up. So it was one of those crazy situations. And Adam Cole just happened to roll over on top of Johnny Gargano for the win. So Adam Cole retains the NXT World title. Again, the match wasn't bad. It also wasn't great. I thought some of the fan reactions were interesting. They were booing Gargano and cheering Adam Cole. Now, I thought Adam Cole was from Michigan and not Canada, because usually the Canadian fans will cheer the people from Canada no matter what they are, and that's just to be expected. But not in this case, and I'm not totally sure what was going on there. But other than that, yeah, it was a serviceable match. It wasn't anything special, despite the Fight Forever chants and This Is Awesome chants. It was okay. It was a perfectly fine match. And all in all, the pay-per-view was enjoyable. There wasn't any real standout match for me. Nothing really jumped out as, a match of the night candidate. Usually there's one when Shinsuke Nakamura took on Sami Zayn. Easily the match of the night. Maybe the match of the weekend if that was a two pay-per-view takeover. I don't remember. But either way, there wasn't anything like that in this show. It was all pretty standard fare. the selling was all over the place. The selling of injuries was, again, all over the place. But perfectly serviceable pay-per-view. You know, they definitely didn't crap the bed on this one, which they've been known to do. Well, not so much NXT, but the WWE's been having some issues lately and haven't been hitting many out of the park. So we'll see how they do with SummerSlam tomorrow. Hopefully better. This has been Al. I'll see y'all next time.